Let me get a little business-like here. I'm going to throw 4 numbers right at you, Apu. 4 numbers. Try to remember things. 11, 12, 40, 95. 11, 12, 40, 95, all right? 11%. That's how much property taxes have gone up in the past 3 years of Betsy Hodges and Jacob Fry. 12%, that's how much violent crime has gone up in our city in the past 3 years of Betsy Hodges and Jacob Fry. 40%, that's how much arrest rates have dropped in the past 3 years of Betsy Hodges and Jacob Fry. And 95, we're going to hold on to 95 for a minute because I don't want to overload you. 11%, that's how much property taxes have risen in just 3 years of one administration that included Betsy Hodges and Jacob Fry. Now, when I say property tax hike, who do you imagine? Do you imagine a family living out by Lake of the Isles who already pays tens of thousands of dollars for their property to just, exist? I mean, when they see an 11% tax increase, usually they can handle it, right? They can move money from one account to another. They might have to cut their vacation a little short. I don't know how rich people live, but I think they'll find a way. I think they'll find a way. And even though they have very legitimate reasons to complain that maybe we shouldn't be seeing a growing bill without seeing a betterment in services, my heart, to be perfectly honest with you, does not bleed for that family, for that high-income family. Now imagine a low-income family living in South Minneapolis, Northeast, North Side. Imagine a family that's renting, because half the city is renters. Imagine what that 11% property tax hike does to that renter. Read the Star Tribune. They have run articles on this where they talk about landlords who have made it clear that they want to keep their rents low. That's just their business model. And yet, because of these incessant property tax hikes, they're having to raise the rent, get ready for this, $100 a month for a single bedroom in a single year. Imagine what that does for a low-income person. Imagine the kind of mental pressure that puts on a person. Imagine what that does to their sense of security, their sense of identity, and crucially for me, imagine what that does to their belief that this city is theirs as well. Now here's the thing, taxes are a good thing. Don't pretend like taxes aren't a good thing, all right? They help put out fires, they help fund our police department, they help build roads, they help keep the city clean. So taxes are good. One of the major obligations of a city, I would argue the biggest obligation of the city, is to keep its people safe, regardless of what neighborhood they live in, their income levels, their social status, any other consideration. If you live within the boundaries of the city of Minneapolis, your city owes it to you to protect you just as much as anyone else in the city. 12%. That's how much violent crime has risen in our city in 3 years. 12%. That's 500 more murders, rapes, and aggravated assaults in our city. Do not normalize this. When you hear that, do not think about somebody who lives too far away. They live right over there. The victims of these 3,500 violent crimes in our city live within our city. They look like you and me. 350 people were shot in Minneapolis last year. That's my neighbor, that's my friend, and 350 people in a city the size of Minneapolis, that should be a crisis, right? That should be an absolute crisis. The mayor should be holding press conferences. The police should be putting out action plans. There should be an immediate push to bring that number down and down and down as close to zero as humanly possible. But it's not a crisis. It is absolutely not a crisis. No one cares about it. And you know why they don't care about it? I think you can feel why they don't care about it. Because most of the people who are hit by these bullets are people who tend to look like me or darker, and they tend to live in very low-income parts of town, like my family grew up in. Botno up in Northeast, or Camden up North Side. They need to calm down a bit, huh? It's not a fluke. It is not a fluke, this rise in violent crime. This is not an accident. This is not something you can pass away. Year after year after year, the Minneapolis Police Department has been asking, at this point, begging for more officers. We all know there are serious flaws within the Minneapolis Police Department. Let's not ignore that part either. If you go to my website, you'll see a very clear plan I have in place to correct the course of our police department through proper staffing and diversification. But they are severely understaffed, and they have been chronically in the past 3 years of Betsy Hodges and Jacob Frey. 40%. You guys remember that number? 40%. That's how much the arrest rate has dropped in just 3 years. 40% in the same span that violent crime has risen 12%. Do you see the problem? The worse you staff your police department, the more crime is going to be permitted, and crime builds on itself, and that once somebody has permission to commit a crime without getting punished for it, why wouldn't they do it again? It's an opportunistic thing. And so, where did that 11% increase in property taxes go? That's my question, right? So much for that low-income family living in South Minneapolis. So not only did we just push them out of their apartment with these really high property tax rates that are being passed on to them, now they're living in a smaller, probably much worse apartment. And to put the cherry on top of this sad, rotten sundae is that now they're much more prone to extreme violence, and their police are far less equipped to protect them. So where did that 11% go? Well, my campaign did an assessment. We went through 500 pages of Betsy Hodges' budget proposal. And what we found was waste upon waste upon waste upon waste. The biggest of these examples, this is the one that for me just encapsulates everything that the politicians that are in power now tend to use to justify these property tax hikes. It's a beautiful project called the Convention Center Plaza Remodeling Plan. Cost to taxpayers $11 million. Okay, $11 million, that's a chunk of money, fine. It's a half a block park right in front of the convention center that literally nobody has heard of, including people like me who know the city like the back of my hand. And it already has a park on it, and the park looks really nice. Nonetheless, they want to remodel it. And Betsy Hodges originally asked for $21 million, and then she realized she couldn't get that, so now she's asking for $11. There are rumors that that's going to be cut out of the budget, and I hope that my campaign at least has that effect that we can cut out this unnecessary expenditure. And I'm going to tell you why it's unnecessary. You know what? I'm going to tell you why I think it's unnecessary. Remember that fourth number, that mystery number? What was it? Kevin, you got it? 95. 95. This particular project, and this isn't an abstract thing, these are people in City Hall who are sitting there looking at plans, and they decided they're going to spend money on this. Well, the mayor decided they're going to spend money on this. The city's own infrastructure recommendation board ranked this project 95th out of 97 as far as infrastructure priorities go. Their recommended investment, $0. Can you believe that? That sounds like something like a Monty Python sketch or something. So the most qualified group within City Hall says you should spend $0 on a project, and then Betsy Hodges and Jacob Frey, that type of a DFL politician, decides that, oh wait, that must mean we should spend $11 million on it? In a time when the police department is understaffed by anywhere from 80 to 100 officers. That's what they choose to spend money on. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of weak leaders. I'm sick of weak reasons. I'm sick of this town of pricing out the people who keep it running. And I'm sick of that money being channeled towards these vanity projects downtown as if that makes any sense. The city belongs to its people. The city belongs to its workers. The city is not a blank check for some ill-disciplined politician to exploit just to make themselves feel good. I will not allow that to happen to a city that I consider my mother, for God's sake. Come on. And I'm not just complaining, all right? I'm taking this opportunity to complain because I need to get this off my chest. You go on my site, you'll see a 200-week plan that actually fixes these problems. But let me complain a little bit longer, please. Jacob Frey. Jacob Frey has his own pet project in downtown, in East Downtown. And the city's going to spend $500,000 on it this year. It's already put a lot of money into it. And I don't know when the city got all gung-ho about building parks, because Minneapolis has the best park board in the world, and yet we're spending $500,000. Give that money to the park board. I'm sure they'll build a much better project than some city council freshman. That's not even the only part that really bothers me, that we're actually spending money on it, and it's ignoring the real needs that people have, the very real needs of affordable housing and of safety. It's that it really neglects the spirit of the city. This project out in East Downtown, Jacob Fry's pet project, do you know what they call it? Does anyone in here have any idea what it's called? No. Okay. It's called the People's Park. And when I read that, I shouted to myself in my car because I was eating McDonald's. And yeah, let's not get into it too much. I shouted to myself, Jacob Fry, every park in Minneapolis is the People's Park. Don't patronize us. Come on. Don't pretend you're giving us something that already belongs to us. That's a really cheap trick. Don't pretend that some space in front of the U.S. Bank Stadium is somehow not meant for the wealthiest crust in the suburban areas of the Twin Cities who can afford the season passes, who can afford the $10 hot dogs. This makes no sense. The People's Park, that is just some tone-deaf nonsense, all right? And I'm smiling, but what's that Churchill quote that we got out there? Love a man who grins when he fights. It's a fight, people. It's a fight. Because things weren't this bad when Ryback was in power, all right? Ryback genuinely cared. Ryback genuinely cared. You're applauding because you know that he cared. You know that he wasn't so oblivious to the real needs of the people of this city. And as much as I wish that he was still our mayor, that's just the past. So what I'm doing now is I'm throwing myself into the fight. I am going to fight for the future. I'm going to bring back the type of rational democratic politics that made this city so strong in the early 2000s, and that's now disappeared and causing a return in unaffordable housing and a return in violent crime. That's what I'm going to fight for, all right? Thank you.